Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. President Trump recently urged U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi to pursue criminal charges against two of the president's perceived enemies, former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James, who sued the president and his businesses for hundreds of millions of dollars. The Justice Department's apparent willingness to move against those who've crossed the president is sparking bipartisan backlash. And for more on this, we're joined by attorney Mark Kokanovich. He's from Ballard Spahr. Good to see you again. Thanks for coming in. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Ted.
All right. So the president demands the attorney. I mean, this is pretty clear what's going on here. I don't like these people. They crossed me in the past. I want you to go after them. What do you make of this?
Well, it strikes the foundation of the ideals of the Justice Department. We aren't supposed to be going after political opponents in criminal prosecutions. That goes against the Justice Manual that was in place when I was a prosecutor here in Arizona as a federal prosecutor. And it goes all the way back to Justice Jackson when he was the U.S. Attorney or the Attorney General for the United States in 1940. He gave a wonderful speech that prosecutors across the country look to, and I teach to my students at ASU in the spring semester when I teach a class on white-collar prosecution, that says that you shouldn't be prosecuting people for political favor or based on partisan goals, that you should have, prosecutors have the most power of anyone in our society to do injustice and to do justice. And it takes discretion to do that, but you don't have to go all the way back to Justice Jackson for those sorts of pronouncements. You can look at the current Attorney General Pam Bondi. Attorney General Bondi in February issued a memo, as most administrations do at the very beginning of their term, to set forth the principles of prosecution that they're going to be operating under. Because each political administration has a slightly different take on their priorities. And she set forth her priorities. And in that memo, and I encourage everyone to read both Justice Jackson's speech, which is still relevant today after years and years, and Pam Bondi's memo that says we shouldn't be weaponizing the Justice Department. We shouldn't base prosecutions on political motives. And yet the president is calling for exactly that. And that's why I think it's sparked bipartisan backlash.
I was going to say, and again, the president's supporters will say this is exactly what happened to him. They called it lawfare. I think they still do. The idea of going after Donald Trump before he was president, and even during his presidency with the impeachments and all these sorts of things, they're saying that's what happened to him. The question is, let's go ahead with that argument. Let's say it did happen to him. Is he still, should he be able to go after these people? These are law enforcement officials.
He was prosecuted, but there's a difference between the way he is going about it and the way prior administrations have gone about it. Not to say that prior administrations have gotten it right either, because I think there's a lot of disagreement about whether and how you should ever prosecute political opponents when you're the party in power. But the prior administration prosecuted people who were Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah.
Famously, there were Democrats who were being prosecuted for fraud who were high-ranking politicians, senators who were Democrats under the prior administration who were convicted. So, and there was a special counsel, and special counsels are also fraught, but it wasn't the Attorney General of the United States being commanded by Biden in public to go after political opponents.
It also looks as though the border czar Tom Homan, there's FBI agents, apparently they got a video of him. They secretly recorded him taking a bag of what is apparently, reportedly, allegedly $50,000 in a bribe. White House denies he takes a bribe. It's there on the video. We need to find out what that is, but the White House doesn't care. I mean, what's going on here?
Well, that may be another example of just this, where you're just making decisions based upon political affiliation rather than the facts. And we want our Justice Department to make decisions based on the facts and the law and not whether somebody has an R or a D before their name.
I was going to ask you, though, does this country really want that right now? It seems so divided. It seems so partisan. I can imagine a whole bunch of folks are saying, go get them.
Well, even the Attorney General Bondi's memo says we don't want that. And in fact, Trump ran against weaponizing the Justice Department at times, right? So it's not a popular thing. the Department of Justice has justice in its name. Justice doesn't show favor to one party or the other just because of party affiliation. So I believe that the people who would want retribution are short-sighted, because what comes around goes around, and that we don't want that in the United States. We've distinguished ourselves historically for not being like that. And that pathway isn't good for justice. It's not good for the economy. It's not good for society. It's not good for our mental health.
The president has mentioned Adam Schiff. He left the impeachment hearings, of course. And of course, we mentioned James Comey. We mentioned Letitia James. We mentioned all these. Apparently, the Justice Department is going to go after George Soros now to try to find out something from him because, again, he seems to finance candidates, ideas, issues that are opposite of the president. You mentioned something really important here is that people forget Donald Trump won't be president forever. Republicans won't be in the White House forever. Do we expect this now to happen when Democrats take over?
Let's all hope not, Ted. And I think that there is reason for hope. Just a couple of them. There are guardrails aside from prosecutors. Prosecutors are kind of the first line of defense to say no, to exercise discretion, to exercise human kindness along with truth and other values that we prize in justice, to make decisions about who to prosecute and whether or not to expend scarce resources to devote to whatever prosecution they're going to do. And there's a reason why we say someone's making a federal case out of it. Federal cases are very expensive. Even the lowliest immigration offense in Arizona costs a lot of money to taxpayers. Every time an immigration charge is brought, it costs money for the prosecutors, it costs money for the defense attorneys, for the court time, it's very expensive to bring a federal case. So one of the protections and guardrails we have is the grand jury. And we've seen grand juries reject prosecutions for political motives and say no. And that flies in the face of kind of the usual sense that grand juries will indict a ham sandwich.
Yes.
They're not indicting people who throw ham sandwiches, right? So that's one safeguard that we have. Courts also have been another safeguard. Where prosecutors get it wrong and the executive gets it wrong, the judges look very carefully at cases that they think are brought for political motives, whether they're brought by Democrats or Republicans. And we saw that with President Trump, too. He got very favorable rulings when he was the defendant because there was a perception, at least among some, that they were political prosecutions. We see that here in Arizona as well, where there's a Democratic administration prosecuting Republicans. Those Republicans typically get very good rulings from judges because they're worried about that balance.
Yeah, and we're kind of running out of time here, but last question. Are you worried about the balance that you are seeing right now in Washington?
Yes, I am worried. I am worried, but hopeful. And that's the way that I am as an attorney and as a person. But I think there's a lot of reason for hope. I think we have far more in common than we have that divides us. And I think that most people wanted a Department of Justice that does justice and not the bidding of whatever politician is currently in power.
Mark Kucinich, again, attorney with Ballard's Bar. Great conversation. Good to have you here.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you.